Joining me tonight. So today is actually going to be a very, very short channeling session. And so we're actually in the middle of going through a timeline convergence right now. And so it kind of feels like many people have been noticing like deja vus or Mandela effects or some type of change that you have noticed in the physical reality. And so that happens a lot of times when we experience cycle ending shifts. So a cycle ending shift it's similar to a convergence in the sense where the timelines of the frequency. So you have a frequency wave that goes like this, right? And so this is the frequency. The wavelength is the distance apart of that frequency. And so knowing this is important. Your oscillation is how fast the frequency wave is going. Your oscillation is directly controlled by your emotional frequency. And so the happier you are, the faster the frequency wave, the faster time and space is going to become for you or your personal perception. And so when we deal with time space abilities, you really can't show anybody else your perception. You perceive what you perceive out of your windows to your soul. And so you can't actually show people a time space ability that only you are perceiving. Now, it is a potential for multiple people to enhance their excitement, the star people are saying. And when a group of people get super excited together, then they all may experience a speeding up of the time space frequency wave. And so that is something that is possible to do. Now, if a trauma-based emotion or trauma-based experiential is about to manifest, all of the people in the location or environmental coding may experience a slowing of time. And so either way, one of those things, but you can't actually go through your life. So I could wake up in the morning and my entire day, it's like, bam, and then it feels like an hour went by and then it's time for bed. That's not something I can show you guys. You guys have to have it experienced through your eyes, through your soul. And so, but just knowing that it is a potential and it's possible. And if one person on the planet can do it, it's going to domino effect. And that means that other people are going to start unlocking the ability. Now we see knowledge is spreading the same exact way. And so just by each and every individual listening to these videos that we're making together, just by you guys listening and knowing the information and believing it, what's actually happening is it's generating a ripple effect into the human consciousness grids, which then in turn starts the process of waking up more individuals to this information, as well as the true nature of reality and your true divine abilities. Hey, Derek, welcome. Welcome, Caitlin. Hello. Thank you guys so incredibly much for joining. Oh, let me do the chat bar. Let me just see. Welcome. Thank you. So yeah, if you may have noticed deja vus, you may have noticed things have changed. Now, we have around the corner from my house, we have a Honda. It's not my Honda. It's just a Honda that maybe they work in the pizzeria or something, but it's always parked in a particular location. And so this Honda, it had stickers on the back windows. It had decals on the front windows. It looked very customized. And so we drove by today. There's nothing on it. Zero. It looks like a factory Honda. And so it's just amazing to see, because the second I saw it, I knew. I'm like, that changed. So that is a form of a Mandela effect. A Mandela effect is two individuals could potentially remember history completely different. And so I could remember Space Jam with Michael Jordan, and you guys could remember it with Shaq or even Shaquille O'Neal. So there's three different potential timelines that people remember of that movie. And so it's okay whichever way that you remember it, because it's each individual is in their own timeline bubble. And so we perceive our own physical realities, and then we experience a collective consciousness reality. However, when we go through certain timelines, it's like a breath of life. And this is what the star people have taught me. And so it goes in like you're taking a breath, and then so right now we're coming to a cycle ending, which is the breath out. It's being released, which is another reason why many individuals have been called to do shadow work. And so I know I've seen people online. I don't know them in real life, because I really don't know any spiritual people in real life except me and my kids. That's really it. And so, but I've seen people through my online channels get into car accidents, manifest diseases or illnesses, or actually some people even got good notice. And so whatever illness that they were battling is now gone. right? And so that's the same thing. It's a cycle ending. And so whether you end it on a positive note or you are ending it on a negative note. And so the negative note is, like, for an example, when you manifest a disease, right, your old life is over because now you're being called to handle the disease. And so at that point, it's kind of like a stepping stone in your life. You're being called to, what are you going to do? How are you going to heal this? Can you heal it? Do you believe you can heal it? What steps are you going to take to heal it? Who are you going to listen to? Now, when it comes to changes, because those are changes in our life, right? And so you guys may notice that a billion people have a billion different opinions. And so you may hear 10, 20 different modalities to heal it, but you have to go inside and use your own intuition for what you feel called to. And then you have to try multiple things. And so I've healed a ton of stuff, and each and everything that I healed, I had to look inside and I had to feel, okay, what feels right? What should I try? And then just by sensing, and actually a lot of the things were on the first shot. I was like, I did enough research. And so you have to realize, like, things like the borax and monoatomic gold, all of these different healing modalities, all these different minerals, or, anything. These are things that I researched. And not only did I research them, I lived them, right? And so I researched them, then I researched them again. Then I went to see if there was a book. Is there a book? Is there a video? What other information can I see? Now, you have to realize the way the placebo effect works. The more and more information that you digest into your mentality, the better off the placebo effect kicks in. And so if you are researching, let's say you research about borax, we'll take that one. Let's say you spend 2-3 weeks, maybe even a month doing your research before you even dare to put some in your bathtub or even ingest some on a micro dose, very, very tiny, right? That has to be watered down and all that stuff. So just don't do the research. But let's say you researched it for a month. So now all of a sudden, a month, you're reading, it's hitting your subconscious mind, because even the act of reading is putting you in a trance, it's putting you in a zone of focus. And so your conscious mind blanks out and your subconscious mind picks onto all the information. Research for a month, now all of a sudden you program yourself. So then when you do go and take that cure, it's going to work better because you have programmed yourself. And so a lot of times, and this was another thing with TikTok. And so I love watching TikTok. And so I like hearing, because it gives me like a little baseline of where everyone's at sometimes, right? And I also listen to a lot of the piano music on TikTok. And so, but that was another thing that the Star people were like, we really want to stop using the technology as much as you can. I mean, listening to podcasts, but try and keep it so that you're listening while you're doing other things and you're not fully engulfing yourself. Even they told me, and even an hour of TikTok is too much. And I love TikTok. So yeah, it's just wild, but we're getting to such a point where everyone is raising their frequency, and we're getting to certain levels that, like, the negative patterns of behavior they're saying, it has to be cut. And so you really have to, like, do a last push, right? And really focus on what are some things that we could be doing to really raise our biological frequency. What are some things that we could be doing to prepare? And so 2023, the numerology of that number is changed. And so we can see 23, and it's encoded into tons of movies, TV shows, music, right? The music videos, you see them throwing 23s around like crazy. And so 23 means change in the numerology. And so when we know that, then all of a sudden, maybe 2023 is going to bring change. So we want to start to prepare mentally, right? And physically, maybe stock up on food and all that stuff. I don't really think, personally, I think that most people, especially if you're listening to my videos, you get to such a level and you're just like, well, I'm manifesting instantly. And so when I need something, I'm going to have it. So what the hell is the point in stocking up? That's how I thought. And then all of a sudden, somebody gifted me food. And so to me, that was like a sign, right? And I was like, oh, okay. So now I have a bucket of emergency food. So maybe I think everyone should have a bucket of emergency food. Go get your buckets, guys. It'll be wonderful. Just put them in the closet. So yeah, does anybody have any questions? A timeline convergence is like, if you imagine, the timeline is actually a vortex energetic. So your DNA spirals up. That's how the timeline works. Now, a lot of times we express the timeline from left to right because that's the way that we perceive time. We see time as we start here, we're babies, and then we grow and grow, and then we're old. But it's actually from up to down. And that's the way that the frequency comes into the physical form as well. And so when we know this, then all of a sudden we can start making changes into our oscillation or happiness levels. And then it speeds up that frequency wave that's inside of us. Now, many times when we go through a convergence, there's multiple timelines that shift on the outside of the primary frequency. And so if you take a look at the multiverse, this is what that means. Say this is our timeline, and then there's another parallel reality or parallel Earth right next to our timeline. And so this goes on indefinite in a positive and negative manner. And so we take a look at from this way. This is the 0 point. This is the timeline that we're on right now in this exact time in space and moment. This time, this second. This is where we are. Then there's Earth 1, Earth 2, Earth 3, and it goes on infinite. And then from this moment, the 0 point, we have a negative Earth, -2, -3, -4, infinite goes on. This negative is considered the mirror dimension or the mirror worlds. And so we are positive polarity. This is a negative polarity. And so you put them together and it forms a toroidal field, actually, which is the shape of the energetic grid structure that surrounds your aura field, or it is your aura field. It's all energy, so it's all kind of connected. So, but it's okay to not really fully understand these things. However, when you take a look at Earth 1, Earth 2, when you have a convergence, all these things are breathing out and then they come in. And so when they come in, all those parallel Earths, they're kind of being slid together into one frequency. And so that's how that whole system works. It's very important to realize this because then you'll start to write it down, right? So today was actually over the past 3 days. We were preparing for it 3 days ago. Yesterday, people started noticing the deja vus. And not only that, but the people following the Schumann resonance and like the solar energies, they were even saying there's crazy activity happening. And so, but now today we are seeing what changed during the convergence. And so people are still releasing density today, even. So I could tell them through my sessions and stuff. Yeah, it's amazing. Good evening. Welcome, Nancy. Welcome, Caitlin. Derek, welcome. Facebook user. Yeah, sometimes it does that. I don't know why it does that, but a lot of times it's Facebook user. So I don't really know who's watching. But yeah, welcome, guys. And so, yeah, like I just wonder what you guys have been experiencing. And so we go through these little baby steps, and this is all part of the process of evolution is releasing and learning and growing, and then we take it back, right? And sometimes it's healthy to take a step back and just go inside yourself and release and just be at peace for the way everything is right now in the now moment. And so it's kind of like, you know, you take a breath and you rebalance yourself. And so you fix yourself a little bit and then you prepare yourself for the next leg of the journey. That's what's actually happening right now. And so it's just a baby step process. So I wouldn't even really panic at all, but it's just a part of the process, right, of evolution. And so 2023, I can't say that. Does anyone have any questions? Any questions at all? Hold on one second. Let me get my book. I did have questions written down for tonight, and then I forgot all about it. Okay, let's see. Okay, so the law of polarity, seeing your experience from a secondary viewing perception. This is exceptionally important when you're dealing with timeline convergences as well, because I want you to imagine this. Every single experience in your life, so you have a negative experience, and then you can witness that experience from a positive polarity. So that topic dives into the 12-year cycles that each and every one of us goes through. 5 of those years is one polarity. 7 years is a second polarity. And so what that means is you could spend 5 years having the experience, but in a positive. So let's take alcohol. This is a famous one that 90% of people on the planet deal with. And so let's take an alcoholic timeline. So for the first 5 years of that individual drinking, it was positive. So they only went out during the weekends. They were a kid probably, right? They hung out with their friends. They had a glass of wine, whatever the situation is. For 5 years, it was positive. Then for 7 years, it was negative, and they started diving into the addiction. And so we take a look at that. Now, 7 and 5 equals 12. And that's important because the 12 is the actual completion of the entire cycle. And so that whole experience of 12, it goes right into the Akashic records once that whole cycle is done. If the person does not heal that cycle within that 12-year span, and like how most people can even become aware of that span is it's beyond me. And so in my situation, I had medical records tell me when the beginning of my timeline span was. That's the only reason why I knew when it was. And so with alcoholism, who writes it down when they first took a drink? Not too many people. So, but becoming aware of it is very important, because this, you want to heal it in the 12 years. If you heal it in the 12 years, it gets shifted up to the Akashic, and then it's done. If you don't heal it within 12 years, it starts another 12. And so this is, we see people who are lifelong, alcoholics. And so that's it. I'll be 5 years sober on January 7th. Congratulations. I would make that like a birthday. I would get a cake every single year and I would celebrate it. Now, birthday cakes too, we're stopping doing them because it's kind of like a magical ritual. And so you're singing, which singing is actually a stronger way of manifesting something. So the Star people actually taught me to sing I love you with 3 different musical tones and do it into your physical body. So you project the song at your body. And then what that's actually going to do is it's going to heal your body. So when you're singing, how old are you? Then all of a sudden it turns into a super strength manifestation. And so for your situation, I would sing, right? I am 5 years sober today. Hey, right? And then keep doing like that every single year. And so I will be sober for the rest of my life. Like turn it into a song. You can even have someone write it with a guitar and stuff. It'll be amazing. And so when you start writing the changes that you want to see into the music and you start singing it, there's a guy on TikTok, and so he sings songs about manifestation. And he says, like, I am healthy, I am wealthy, I am wise. And it's all written into the song. It's very positive nature. And so when you put that on repeat and you're singing it over and over again, it turns into a giant manifestation. And then all of a sudden it's real. And it becomes real for you. And you know what? You guys have nothing to prove to nobody. And so you don't have to tell anyone you're sober. You don't have to, none of that nonsense, right? You just know it in your heart. And you know that you are trying to heal and you are on the path for your spiritual evolution. Not only that, 95% of all the light workers in the star seeds, we have attunements to alcohol and drugs because it's so like rampant on the planet. Many of us have taken up those types of topics to really check them off and heal them for the entire planet or the ancestral karma of the families that we manifested into. So yeah, it's absolutely amazing. So just think about it this way. When people are in fight or flight or they're in trauma, and so we can see this in the history on the planet as well. When people are in fight or flight or trauma, they tend to drink more. And so this goes right back to the mice in the cage. So they had rats in a cage and they put 2 bottles. One bottle had water, one had drugs. If you put them in a fish tank where there's no interaction and it's not positive, it's not loving, caring, kind, it's boring, they're always going to pick the drugs. But then they took the mice and they put them in a Disneyland mouse tank. And so they had the tunnels, they had the meetings, they had other mice, they had both sexes, male and female. And so they can have social interactions and all that stuff. And it was wonderful. And so those mice in Disneyland, they never picked the drugs. So your environment is key when it comes to any type of alcohol and drugs. Now, take a look at all the wars that we've had on the planet, Hitler, all that nonsense that happened in the past. It's no wonder that drugs and alcohol are rampant on the entire planet because it's not only here in the States, it's everywhere. And so just be aware of that. So there's a reason that we came in to this reality in order to check and start healing all this stuff. And so you're setting an example for the rest of the people, not only in your family, but the people who witness you. And so now, this is another thing, just on a side note, anyone who has had any type of addictive patterning, you really want to go through and discharge any attachments. And so the attachments are actually lower vibrational entities or beings, which latch onto your energetic grids and they push like the thoughts or the emotions inside your mind and your emotion. And so it makes you want to engage in that attachment again. And so people who stop drinking, they may notice that they have thoughts. Oh, I want to drink. I want to drink. I want to drink. They'll have those thoughts because that's an attachment pushing the thoughts into their mind. And so the second that you discharge the attachment, you have to go over your energetics and really seal them with love and light. And then all of a sudden, you're not going to have the addiction. Like it's it's going to be so much easier to stop the pattern. So just always focus on clearing the attachments as well as, yeah. And so we don't call people junkies. And so I know that that's something that the TV and the government and like the news and the media wants to call people junkies or worthless or trash, right? Because they're addicted to a substance. The truth of the matter is that we've all been brainwashed to have the likelihood of using these substances. And so what do? They put in the TV shows. We all watch TV shows where it's cool to smoke cigarettes and drink alcohol, right? You're the bad one. And so, but it's not bad. It's like, oh, you're the rebel. Everyone wants to be the rebel or the superhero in the movie. So it was portrayed to us over and over again through all of this subliminal programming to be something that's positive. And then all of a sudden, the second that you took it too far because the TV programmed you to, then all of a sudden, wham, you're a junkie, or you're useless, or you're worthless, or you're homeless, or you're a bum, right? So when we start to utilize these low frequency words for other people, we're actually, it's like dislocation of your humanity. And so we don't look at the homeless guy in the street as a human. We look at him like he's a bum, or he's homeless, or he's worthless. And so the truth of the matter is that every single human being is worth. And so we are worth a high value, because if you took that human being and you funded him, where you got him the proper help that he needed, you made him happy and excited and joyful to be alive again. And then not only that, but you allowed him the time and space and resources to follow his highest passion. When you do that to people, they don't want to use drugs. It's just like the mice in the Disney, right? And so we always want to speak positive to people and ourselves, specifically yourself, because when you start calling yourself that, there's a little piece of you that breaks inside, and it's hard to find that piece and fix it. So yeah, very good. 25 years though. That's an achievement. Yeah, a lot of people were on drugs, a lot. And so I remember too, because they used to like put it in the TV shows, like the stay-at-home moms were sharing Xanaxes with everyone, right? And so we've all seen the TV shows where they're doing things like that. So it's just amazing. Yes. So, okay, let's see. What is this one? Okay, energetic clearings and how to do it and how to clear attachments. Okay, so that's actually really important, because your energetic grids, it changes your complete life. And so the second that you start focusing on your energetic grids and you start clearing them. So each chakra, so you have red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. And so that's 7. There's actually 12 total. We just can't see the other ones. But they're all overlapped and they form the energetic grids. And so let's say you close your eyes and you go into the root chakra. Now, there's a source frequency lens, which is a circle. And so we wipe that circle of any darkness or density that's on top of the circle. And then you can even close your eyes and pull apart the energy grid. And so you can put the grid in front of you so you can see the entire grid. And then what you do is you can wipe it clean. You can blow it clean. Some people do that. You can pull off any density or darkness and throw it in a trash can, right? And so you can do all these different things to just supercharge it. And then you normally close your eyes and just imagine visualizing sending red light and then supercharging the grid and making it a super bright red. And then what you do is you shrink it back down, you put it back into the chakra. Now the grid's completely clean. Any traumas that you have, any strong emotions that you have inside of you, that density can reform. And so normally that process takes about 3 to 4 days to reblock the energetic grid. So when you do this, when it's blocked like that, now they're saying that you'll have a time in which the thought or the memory of the original trauma will come to your mind. And when you fire off that emotion again, it reblocks up the energetic grid. And so that's how that works. So then you go through and you clear it out again. Then anytime your thoughts of memories come to your conscious mind, it's actually because you're being called to handle the memory. Otherwise, we actually forget the memories. And so a lot of times your memories just get shot right up to the Akashic record if we don't need them. And so it gets stored in your book of life. And when we have a memory that comes into the conscious waking mind, we want to just see how it makes us feel. Do you feel that memory anywhere in the body? Does it feel tense? Does it feel tight? Does anywhere at all? Do you have any aches and pains? Or when you have that memory, do you fire off an emotion code? So the emotion code could be like, oh my God, or oh, that happened, maybe you fell down or something, right? Or you have the memory, and then you can even feel the pain that you felt at the time that you got injured. It's like it's a memory, it's an imprint. And so what you want to do is, you really, the easiest way to heal these things from the past is to just have compassion for the person that you were. And so when you have compassion for the person that you were, it allows the energetics to fully clear. And so that's important, as well as going over the physical body in the space that you felt attached to that trauma. Because energetic imprints, they cause blockages, and so many times the attachments latch on, and it causes a form of paper cut, which is in the energetic grids. And so when you go over the body and you send it love and light, like you're doing Reiki, it heals those paper cuts. So once the paper cut is healed, a new attachment, which is holding the same emotion code, it won't be able just to latch onto you. And so I want you guys just to imagine, let's say that you get a paper cut in the energetics here on your hand. There's a range of attachments that can latch on to this location. And so they push very distinct emotion codes or thoughts, they're saying. And so those attachments, when you're walking through the civilization, now one of those attachments will latch on because they see an opening. They see a spot where they can latch on and feed. It's kind of like a vampire. And so when you go through and you Reiki energy and heal, and you are healing the paper cut, then all of a sudden it's kind of like a layer of protection. So when you go into the civilization, they can't really latch onto you. You get these types of energetic paper cuts from having the experience one time. And so someone should have really told us this when we were kids, because one time, so by you picking up a beer one time, it automatically ripped an energetic paper cut, which allowed types of attachment to latch onto you. And they don't just leave. They stay there until you cast them off, which is an issue, because this is how we see people with drugs and alcohol issues. And then they go 40 years sober and then they fall off the wagon. Right? It's because the attachments weren't cleared, because one day they get that impulse or that thought and they feel like they can't control it. And they're right, they can't control it because it's an attachment. And so the attachment will keep pushing that thought on you. The second that you clear the attachments, I swear to God, the way that you think totally changes. And so you will constantly pay attention to your thoughts and your mind and your emotions. And then you just keep clearing the attachments, because it's life altering when they're fully cleared off of you. And so you could walk through life, you could get upset a lot, you could have all this stress and pressure and all that nonsense, and then all of a sudden you discharge all of the attachments and all that stuff is gone. It's all just gone. And so it's just amazing when you start actually focusing on getting them off of you. I have been struggling with some self-doubt on and off for a little while regarding my spiritual journey. Sometimes I feel super connected and strong in my beliefs, and other times I feel very disconnected and doubt where I am in my journey. Is this normal? Yes, absolutely. Or do you have any insight on what might be happening? Yes, I had to deal with that too. And I had to deal with it times 10, because at some point I was like, oh my God, I'm communicating with aliens. I knew this ever since I was a kid too, because I used to ride a motorcycle, and there was one time that they showed me riding really fast, and then I flipped the bike and I died. And so, but then like wham, I was 5 minutes back in time, and they spoke to me in my helmet as if they were standing with me, and they were like, "You're not listening to me." Us, they said us, you're not listening to us. And so at that moment, I pulled over my biker boys and I'm like, I'm going home, because someone just told me I was going to get hurt. So I went home. Well, the next day, my biker boys called me and they were like, we just got into a cat and mouse chase 5 minutes after you left. And that's when I knew. And I went home and I was like, well, who the hell was us? Right? Because now this wasn't something that I had made up. This was, to me, it was confirmation. And so, but now looking back at my life, I've had multiple issues, not issues, but multiple experiences where like, there was one time I was hanging out in an Avis car rental. And so it was next to a main street, and a minivan, the tire popped off, and the tire was coming right at my head. I said, you can't make this stuff up. And out of nowhere, 2 street signs appeared, and then it ricocheted the tire back out into the street. Everybody was like, those signs were never there. So nobody knew how the signs got there. It was just like magic. And so how do you explain this to your family? How do you explain this to the people around you? They look at you like you're crazy, because your beliefs are like so far in the left field. It's like you're hallucinating. Maybe you should go to the psych, right? Maybe you should get a shrink. And so, but I stuck to my guns, and I'm like, no, I know what I saw. Other people saw these things too. And so, to some point, you just have to know what you know and don't worry about the rest. Yeah, it's very intense. And that's only two. I could sit here for hours and tell you guys the rest of the stuff that happens, and you would be like, you should write a book on just that, right? Forget about the science and all this spiritual. Just write a book about your life and just put it out, because it's just amazing. It's amazing stuff. And it's like, damn. But yeah, it's with the spiritual journey, a lot of times what I did was because when I went through learning about the true nature of the physical reality, I would learn a little bit of science that day, and then I would go and I would talk. So I would go and I would tell my parents, because I lived with them at the time. I would tell anyone who would listen to me. I'm great at the gas stations, because I'll sit there and I'll talk to them for hours and like da da da, and draw a crowd, right? And so, but anyone who would listen, I would tell them. And so, but it was all based on science. And so we learned about water. Now, when you speak to water, it makes a snowflake. So I started there. We start with science. And so, but I also did my own scientific experiments. Let's stay at home mom type, right? So we take the water, we put the food coloring, we bless it, we put it in the freezer, there's a vortex. That's my scientific experiment. And so I put all the pictures on Facebook. This was years ago. And so, but when I was doing all of these things, I would be telling all the people around me, well, it's science. And so you guys can go Google it. Now, unfortunately, today, some of the stuff that's coming off on Google is nothing like the stuff that I was learning back then. And so, because some of the people online have brought that to my attention, and they're like, well, I try to Google that and I'm not getting any information. It's all scrambled. So you can ask, well, what the star people are saying, the reason for that right now is because the sun has risen to such a frequency where the potential for a yes and a no is both there for you to choose and manifest from. And so when you are checking Google, what is it that you want to see? So if you want to see, let's take one, if milk is bad or healthy for you, right? So that's two potentials. You can Google and you can find whatever answer that you are seeking will be there. And so, but that actually, it plays right into the holographic simulation, because if you believe the milk is healthy for you, you'll find or seek information that proves that milk is healthy for you. And then all of a sudden, when you drink it, because you believe it's healthy for you, it's going to have a healthy, positive side effect on you. And so this has, it's with everything. Whatever you believe is going to perceive. Now, the way that it works when we are blessing the food, which is high value for each and every one of us to start doing immediately. And so what you're actually doing is you're not changing the food. So you're not changing the bottle of water. I mean, at the subatomic levels, yes, we can see that there is a frequency shift in the water. But for the most part, what you're doing is you're coming into a place of peace, and your body is becoming relaxed, and you're filling your body with love. So the more and more you are able to fill your body with love and really like happy, positive, blissful, emotional frequencies, then all of a sudden, it doesn't matter if the water has toxins in it. You are still protected because your body is raised in frequency. And so you can even have a look. There's certain ancient alien experiences or things that they've written down. And so gods came down from the sky, and then they were able to drink any and all plants and poison. And then they wrote it all down to tell the humans which ones were toxic and which ones that they could eat. And then the guy magically, he would eat something, get sick, and then all of a sudden he was cured. And so they had to be using high technology, or they had to have like a Yoda type of spiritual being who was able to have the reaction and then wham, instantaneously heal himself. That's real. So like Superman abilities, all these things are real. In this reality, they are real. And so I would have never had thought that in my wildest days that I would ever be sitting online having a conversation about extrasensory abilities and how we can activate them. But I've seen things, and I've seen too many things. So now I know for a solid 1,000 fact, it's real. And so the way is to seek and find. And so the more energy and focus and attention that you place on activating of these abilities, the faster it's going to become for you to manifest them. That's the bottom line. And so when you put your focus on something, imagine your focus is like, it's a frequency wave, right? So it can be like a laser or a light or something, right? And the more you put your focus on something, it's going to increase the frequency of that item that you are putting your focus on. And so this has everything to do with like the timeline convergence, Mandela effects, deja vu, right? And so what are you seeing? What is it that you are trying to manifest? The more and more focus that you place on something, the more and more it's going to strengthen your magnetism, which then in turn puts you on a timeline in which you manifest whatever it is that you are seeking. This is how the whole system works. And so what you really want to do is be happy, joyful, blissful, and thankful for whatever it is that you're looking to manifest. This is why the highest passion always manifests when you put your focus on it. It's because the highest passion makes you joyful, blissful. You get really super excited, right? And so you're already firing off bliss frequencies. That's the reason why we came here. So each and every human being is actually a piece of the puzzle. And so the piece of the puzzle is you're supposed to follow your highest passion because that's where your bliss is. And when you follow your highest passion, then all of a sudden it changes your manifestation because it puts you on a higher frequency timeline in which everything that you need just lands at your feet. And so it sounds really simple to say, but you really have to come and go inside, do the shadow work and release. And so you have to release the trauma, all that stuff. Now, if you just imagine time, space, there's a 0 point, which is this exact moment that we are experiencing right now. This is the 0 point. This is the now moment. And so in the now moment, how do you feel? And so if you feel any trauma from the past that you're holding on in your body, all of that has to be released. It's not even really real. You're in a simulation. And so basically, that's hard to tell people because a lot of times they're like, well, what do you mean it's not real? I remember it. I feel it. It's there. Yes. But just imagine that you were plugged into a simulation right now in this moment, because this moment is the only moment. And because you're plugged into a simulation, you had to pick the parameters of the holographic simulation. And so you had to pick what the sky looked like. You had to pick what your house is going to look like. What did your body look like? What is the food that you guys eat? Why does chicken taste like everything? It's the same exact thing. Someone had to sit there and program the simulation. That program is running in the subconscious mind. But that program is also guided by Adinkra codes. Adinkra codes are the same exact computer software codes that we use in Google. Or we use it for DOS, like to generate our computer systems. It's Adinkra codes. We can even find the Adinkra codes in the solar system. And so we are seeing a holographic simulation. Everything ripples out. So when you start to see it in your body, you're going to start to see it in your local environment. This is the way the source frequency rings work. And so you have the primary ring in the center, which is your body. The secondary ring is everything in your location code. And the third ring is the solar system and everything else that you see in the world. And so when you're starting to see things like Adinkra codes, you see it in your own body. And so we can see the gene expression and we can see error correction happening in the body. So your white blood cells go into play on that one, because if something is wrong, it's an error correcting code that gets turned on that sends the white blood cells to start the healing process. Your computer system works the same way. And so then we take it to the solar system. We see the same exact thing. So it's a ripple effect. If you threw a rock into a water, you're going to start to see a ripple effect. And so this is the way the energy flows through the holographic simulation. It flows first through your body, and then it flows through the civilization, and then the solar system, or the other planets, because the other planets, all that stuff is in the third ring. The star people are saying until you take your consciousness up to another planet, then that planet becomes part of the secondary ring because you're there. It's directly in your location. And so, yes, absolutely amazing. And not only that, but space will become open in our lifetime. And so our lifetime is also going to get extended, but we are going through a shift. And so the shift in the civilization, the more peace and love and bliss that you guys can hold in your heart, the smoother that shift is going to be for everybody involved. Now, if you ever feel like there's stress or chaos or tragedy or trauma frequency outside your door, just drop right into a meditation automatically. The slower you can get your heart rate and the more you can open the heart chakra and the more love and bliss that you can hold, it actually starts pulling a frequency that comes out the top of your head and it radiates out, and it kind of radiates out like this. It's a toroidal field. And so when you do that, it can change the potential outcomes into a more positively aligned frequency. And so it's just amazing, because that means that when one person meditates, we can reduce crime in like a 20 to 30 mile span. We can reduce accidents. So the amount of people who are going to the hospitals, ambulances, fire department, all that stuff gets reduced. Crime gets reduced. And so fights any type of violent or traumatic, any type of that. And so just by meditation, it's while you are in the meditation. Right now, that's what it is, while you're in the meditation. However, when you open your eyes and you come out of the meditation, when you reach a certain level, you'll figure out how to properly utilize your body as a frequency generator. And then you can start holding that frequency, or it's known as becoming in alignment. And so when you become in alignment, that alignment will start pulling that energy in and having that effect. And so we see some people who are vortex workers or grid workers, same thing. And they're naturally pulling in more of this energy, and they're changing the location code frequencies. And so you can have a really like run down, trashy looking location code, and then one of the grid workers moves in, which is another reason why the starseeds, we were all spread out, which is why everyone always complains, oh, they're across the country. Yeah, because everyone has their own location code that they are to focus on. And so by putting one of us in every single parameter, it means that when we're holding a higher frequency, we are affecting that location code, which in turn affects the human consciousness grid that surrounds the entire planet. So it's just absolutely amazing. There's different types of meditations to focus on. So the question was, what do you focus on when you meditate? Isn't it supposed to be nothing? Yes, you can focus on nothing, which it puts you into the all. And so that basically, it opens you up to receive whatever it is that your higher self wants to gift you. And so that's one way to meditate. You can focus on love or bliss. Many times, meditations can also be manifestations. And so think about a daydream. A daydream is a form of meditation. And so, and actually the daydream is really important. The star people are like jumping up and down over here. And they're like, the daydream is super, super important, because when you want to manifest something, that zone of focus, when you get into the daydream, that zone of focus is important, because that's how you're able to make sparkles. And so I tried opening up a portal once. And so, of course, I did this with my starman, and he sat there, and I kept drifting into the daydream, and I got really good at doing it too. Who knew? But you drift into the daydream, and then you project your energy in a circle. And so when you do that, you do it with the intention of opening up a portal, and I wanted to see him. And so I got so far as to see the sparkles. And the second I saw the sparkles, my heart started jumping and the whole thing shut down. And then I couldn't get back into the meditation, because at that point I was too excited. And it's like a rush of energy. And so, but your meditation, you can start by doing nothing, because doing nothing and going deep into meditation, it connects you and grounds you into the source frequency, which is normally when you're able to instantaneously or spontaneously heal. And so people who are blind, they can go into certain meditations. They can thank the source frequency for healing them, and then they can open their eyes after the meditation and they can see. And so we can all do this. It's a holographic simulation. So your binary codex frequency is a frequency inside the physical body. And so it becomes distorted with traumas, tragedies, emotions. And so the second that you go into meditation and you think nothing, and so when you do that, then all of a sudden it allows for new energy to come in and push through you. It's like a pulse. And so it pulses through you, and it starts to rebalance of the energetic grids, which then in turn heals. Yeah. Beautiful. Does anybody have any questions? So we are going to make this live a short. We're going to wrap it up. I'll just do one more from the list. Let me see. Okay. Overcoming self-limitations. I'm experiencing, I don't know what that word is. Alan, you could type it again. I'll wait for you. So overcoming self-limitations and being born with magnetic attunements. And so that one is really, really important. Okay, so when we have a magnetic attunement, a lot of times we come into this world and we are pre-programmed with experiences. And so some people, they don't like to sign up to that concept, but I've seen it in my own life, so I know it's true. And so when you have a magnetic attunement, other people will point things out to you and you'll be like, nah, right? And so when I was little, people used to tell me, oh, you're going to be a writer when you grow up. And I was like, nah, right? Because I couldn't stand writing. Little did I know that computers would be advanced and I could just speak to text. And now all of a sudden I'm writing all the time anyway, using the cell phone. And so, but Well, we have some magnetism set that are for negative experiences, and that's okay. A lot of times that has everything to do with ancestral karma. And so starseeds, light workers, we're more attuned to manifesting. And so that's because our hearts are normally open. And so we're holding higher frequencies naturally at the time of birth. So if there is any form of magnetism attunement inside of our DNA, it's going to manifest rapidly. And this is how ancestral guides, ancestral karma takes place, and it manifests. And so when we overcome self-limitations, that has everything to do with the magnetisms as well, because sometimes the magnetisms are putting a block. And so we block ourselves from really reaching the peak performance that we are capable of. When you release the block, it comes with pain. And so self-limitation is you think that you are going to go through some type of pain. And so you don't want to go through the experience. Now, take a look at Marines, because Marines and soldiers, they are trained or programmed to go and just you break through that block, right? So you don't have a choice. They tell you have to do it anyway. Now, I had an experience with my mom, and I told my mom, you don't have a choice. You have to quit smoking. She quit smoking for a couple of weeks. I couldn't believe it. She's a 40-year smoker. And so she was just amazing. And she was like, oh, I believed you. Right. And so your belief system is what puts these blocks on your consciousness. And so the star people call this the shade veil or shades. And so each shade is caused by density or a belief system that we inherit. So when you come into this physical reality, you're an infant. You're learning all about the reality by the adults around you. So the adults around you program you. If they program you with love, from the time that you were born until the time that you're 7 years old, your brainwaves are in theta, which means that you are more acceptable to accepting programming. This is why people who are under the age of 7 should not have any technology in the room, ever. They should never watch a TV. Even if you're bored, even if the child has nothing to do, let them sit there and watch what you're doing as a parent. Because when they watch a parent, they learn from the parent. So it's different. You're not watching from the TV. My kid, I didn't know this at the time. So I put my kids in front of the TV for a couple hours here and there. And so it taught them to not believe in magic. That's my exact opposite of what I ever wanted the kids to know. So then I had to sit down with the kids and I'm like, oh yeah, magic is real. And then I sat there and I taught them all the science, and they did not want to hear it. So it's kind of hard to break the programming once it's in there, especially if it's subconscious programming. So when we look at a movie, we're not seeing all the subliminal messages inside the movie, and those are hitting the subconscious mind, and it's automatically having an effect on us. Now, there's a flicker ratio that we can actually start to program through meditation. And so the flicker ratio is, I want you to visualize, and I've said this on a ton of other videos, but the way the simulation flickers, right? Our power of sight, the way that we see, it's a photo with a photo behind it and a photo behind it, and it has a flicker ratio or flicker rate. And so it's kind of like looking at a movie on a movie screen. And so we can go through meditation and we can start to change the flicker rate. That's tuned into the time-space frequency. And so if you don't want to experience subliminal messages, you do not want your consciousness to be able to absorb them, through meditation, there is a way to cross cancel them and to change your flicker rate so that all the subliminal messages, and some people have done this on accident. And so what happens is you have some people who can look at a movie and they're like, subliminal messages, look at right there, right there, right there. And so those, a lot of times, those are the people who learned how to put the subliminal messages into the TV shows. And so now their eyes are open, they're awake. And so now they can point them all out. But that's how it works. And so the more you focus on something, the more and more you're going to see it manifest. Yeah, it's like strokes too. Okay, let me see. Is there someone on your right side of you? I could see Ellen. Yes. And so it's my Starman. And so he's blue. He's Arcturian. And he's always with me. It's so funny because people have seen him with 2 fingers. And so I throw the peace signs around all the time. Me and my kids, this is our thing. We do 22s. So my numerology with my birthday is a 22. And so I just, when my kids were little, I'm like, throw your 22s. And so this is what we do. And then little did I know, it actually turns out to be a spiritual symbol. Of course, the synchronicities would line itself up. So it's just absolutely amazing. And so I had this one time, actually it was 2 times, when it was just not a good day for me. I don't know what I was upset over. It must have been something tiny, but I was upset. And so here I am driving down the street, and then all of a sudden, the billboard sign said, let's have peace, and it had a peace sign. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, the star people put this giant billboard here to cheer me up. And it worked. So, yeah. Okay, let me go back because I know Ellen had a question. Twin plasma. Okay, you're experiencing my twin plasma. Yeah, my twin flame is my cousin who left me in 1992. That can happen. It absolutely can. And so, you know, the souls come back in a multitude of ways. And so we sometimes will have, like, here's my personal perspective with it. And so my grandmother, her name was Rose. And so she passed when I was younger. And so all of a sudden we have these cats. And now the cat kept coming and like reincarnating. My kid was like 3 years old. And so my cat kept having litter after litter after litter. And so in every single litter, my 3-year-old would go, that one's Rosie. And we're looking at him like, how do you know that name? Where'd you hear that name? And he's like, the cat, he didn't know. He was 3. And so all of a sudden, that one's Rosie. That one's Rosie. Now in 2019, years go by. In 2019, it's my dark night of the soul. And my whole life is going from being a cripple and being negative and, oh my God, the world is going to end, to a positive. And so during that shift in 2019, I had a dog show up whose name was Rosie. And so, of course, now this sparked questions, because every time I have questions, I'm all asking the star people. I want to know. I have to know everything. And so I'm very inquisitive with them. And so then what they did was they told me the soul of your grandmother is also, well, they told me she was connected in with the Magdalene Collective and the Rose Collective. And so they said that she reincarnated into all these different animals to be with you when you needed her the most. And so twin flames, yes, it does not have to be anything sensual in nature, but they can show up in different people. Now, this goes one level deeper, because you can have a soul form like your grandmother, and she can actually pull her consciousness from the heavens or the spirit realm, and she can embody another person for a split second. And so I've had the star people do this all the time. And just because they're in a physical body doesn't mean anything. This is consciousness technology. Even though there's no technology, it's just consciousness driven spiritual technology. And so if the star people can push themselves into one of our bodies, and they could do it to all of us, but they do it with love and light, and they do it to help heal us. They do not do it out of negativity, but they can put yourself they put themselves in my body. They can make me raise my hands. They can make me stretch. A lot of times that's how they're waking me up in the morning, is by stretching me and good morning. Let's go. Right. Let's get on up. Because they know I'm like a 5-minute, I'll hit the snooze button. And so, an ethereal snooze button. I don't really use alarm clocks. I try and go by the sunshine, but it's always 5 more minutes with me. And so they'll stretch and they'll be like, come on, get up. Right. And so, but they can do this to everyone. And that's advanced psionic abilities. That's what that is. Your soul, your spirit, and the people who are in heaven, they can do this as well. They choose not to, or they do it, but they do it in certain ways where they're not causing interference, because the wheel of karma is still valid. Right. And so they don't want to make people scared. They don't want you guys to be fearful and panic. And so, yeah, it's absolutely amazing. But that's very, very true. Your ancestors, and like not only that, but in certain TV shows and movies, like The Originals, that's a vampire movie. And so that one was on TV, and they spoke about ancestor magic. And so they would take the actual body and they would consecrate the body to a certain location code, and all of their ancestors, they would place them all in one spot, because it allowed them to make communication with the ancestors at a higher frequency range. And so where do we see this done? The Indians used to do this. Oh, that's a burial spot, right? They put everyone in one spot so they can tune in and they can pull information from the spiritual realms or magical abilities, right? Help me manifest something. And so now I'm from Long Island. I grew up in Brentwood, and I know people who have gone to like voodoo people or psychics. And so I know from listening to their stories that some of the psychics will go and get cemetery dirt. What the hell do you guys need cemetery dirt for? Right. And so what they're actually doing is they're calling upon the strength of the ancestors to work whatever magical ritual that they're working. It's all a manifestation is what it is. However, there has to be some type of science that we can look at behind that. Because if all of these people are doing it and they're telling you it works and it's on TV and stuff, it's a mirror reflection of something that's in the reality, and it's always here, and we're observing it for a reason. So if there is a way to make contact with the heavens, which people are already doing through past life regressions, the hypnotists are making contact with the heaven realm. It's just the frequency range, and the souls are all there. So if they're making contact and communication, what's the next? I mean, what's next, right? What else can we do? And so there's certain religions and cultures on our planet that informs people that when you have a loved one who has passed, you're supposed to make a statue or a figurine, or maybe even have their picture, right? That's very American. We put their picture up, and every day we send them a tribute. We love and light you, right? We love and bless you. We miss you. And so what I do something a little more Americanized. I set it in my calendar. So on their death date, I get a little notification, and that's when I say a little prayer to them every single year. It's not every day, but some people do it every single day, right? And so everyone is different. Now, what does that do? The more focus you put on something, the more it's going to manifest. So maybe the more focus that you put on that lost person, you focus, you'll make contact and communication with them. It is possible. There was, when I was going through my I'm a cripple stage, right? I cried a lot back then. It was just a nightmare. And so the one day I go outside and I was hysterical, and I had felt like someone had put their hand on my back, and it was like a sensation of peace. Like I didn't want to run. And then all of a sudden my grandmother's complete life, like pictures started coming in my eyes, and I got to see her in different stages of her life, in different dresses, different outfits, all this stuff. And then it switched to my grandfather. So I got to see his too. And then I went inside, because of course at that point I'm not upset anymore. I'm like, what the hell was that? And so I go inside and I ask my mom, I'm like, did grandma have this white dress? And then my mom whips out the picture and shows me. Was this the dress? I was like, yes, that's what I saw. So it was confirmation that I had seen my grandmother, who showed me images. And so our ancestors, they can come to us. They can make contact, communication. Yeah. They're real. They're so, your energy doesn't die. And so, and this mortality has been a thing for me too. Like we've been going over losing the fear of death over the past 3 days. That's part of my shadow work. So releasing any fears to the physical reality is part of the ascension process. Because when you no longer fear death, it allows you to manifest immortality. And so it's a baby step process, though. You have to get over your fears. And so every single fear must be released in time, they're saying. But right now it's like you should just baby step the process. Let me go with that. That's just what I was working on. And so everyone else is different, though. So, but your energy never dies. And so, you know, the reason that this came up, the whole mortality thing, was because the government did. And so the government, there's been some person who's been cloaked and hitting me with frequency technology. And so I felt it, and I felt like he was trying to kill me. And so it's prompted us to, okay, well, now we have to release the fear of death. Right. And so this is what we're working on currently. And so I'm not scared of him, because I know what happens is he hits me with whatever technology, but then the star people go and they rebalance me directly after the live. So I know that I'm like super protected. But yeah, it's just absolutely amazing. Your soul form is made of energy and light. It's a frequency wave. And so because it's a frequency wave, energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It simply is. And so if you have a look at the toroidal field, right, it kind of looks like two donuts that keep recycling into. And so like this, it's like a spiral. I don't know if you guys can see it here. And that's the way your aura field works. That's the way the frequencies work. And so you're spiraling up, the evolutionary, but then you also spiral down. This is, it comes right in alignment with different yuga cycles. So the yuga cycle takes the entire planet and it spirals it up, and then it spirals it down. It's a breath of life. And so just like the timeline convergence happens, where all of the timelines are flipping either out or then in, it also flips on larger levels. And so that's only one tiny little aspect. And then there's a bigger one around it that goes over bricks of years. And so it's like a breath in and a breath out. And so it's every single expression in the simulation must be manifest before the next cycle of time can begin. And so this is the reason why we have to see every single experience has to be seen before we're allowed to evolve. That's a natural process of evolution. And so we see it in I mean, it's every single thing. We see so many different topics in the civilization. I don't want to name them all because I don't want to get censored. But every single topic, every single experience, it's all being manifest. And it's kind of like full throttle. Like, okay, well, let's just do everything at once because we're trying to evolve very rapidly. We sent all the star people here and we're doing all this stuff. That's what's actually happening. So it's all a blessing in disguise. I promise you. And so when you look at the civilization, if you have any fear, just know in your heart, the star people are guiding all this stuff. There's so many things that they're not going to be able or allowed to do to us. And just have love in your heart and just know, be at peace, because it's only going to take a handful of us to fire off the extrasensory abilities and it's game over. Think about it this way. If one of us learns, and I've had experience, so I know it's true, but if you can instantaneously manifest, are you going to have a fear of anybody starving? No. And why is that? Because you can instantaneously manifest a whole shipment of food for your entire community. And not only that, but you can instantaneously manifest near every single library across coast to coast has a container of food. So now all of a sudden everyone has food, right? That's how strong the manifestations can be. And so we don't have to think about just our little town or our little block, right? You could take it onto a global level and manifest. And so it's just, when you see all the chaos in the civilization, it only takes one person. And this is what the star people are bringing to my attention. They're saying it takes one candle in a dark room to light up the entire room. And so if we're seeing this darkness in the civilization, it just takes one of us. That's it. And so how many people? We have 21 people here on Facebook. And that's not even including the other 2 accounts that are linked to this one. And so on Instagram, we have a ton of people too. And so we already have more than one candle. And so what happens when you put 3 together? Now it's extra bright. And so that is what we are being called to do. Just be the candle in the dark room. I've seen that. There's a little fairy again. So the fairies have been showing up on my lives. So I don't know anybody who's watching. If you see them, that one was on Instagram. I saw a little thing. It was big on Facebook. It was like right up in my face, like the fairy. And I never rewatched the videos, but I rewound the video and I watched it and I seen it and it was big. So it was just absolutely amazing. So fairies can look like, they can look like white dots. They can also look like I've seen them with wings and little feet, right? So you see them and they kind of look like a cross. But there can also be orbs, and orbs are always constantly around me too. Orbs are the star people a lot of times. And so they can take an entire UFO ship, and just like the Ant-Man, if anyone's seen the Ant-Man movie, how he could take a human body and he could shrink it so it's super, super tiny, right? They could do that with their spaceships, and then they could go through time and space, and all sorts of amazing stuff is coming to humanity. And it's already here because it's already in the consciousness grid. So many people have watched all of these superhero movies, and all of that information has downloaded into their mind. And how many people do you know watched Superman from all those years ago? And then they were like, wow, I want those abilities. And so that's the reason why we're collectively manifesting the extrasensory abilities right now. It's because somewhere in some aspect of your soul, you guys, we all knew that these things were real and that we wanted to activate them. And so that's part of the Starseed mission as well. And it all comes from love. You can activate extrasensory abilities through anger and hatred, but it corrupts the soul form every single time. And so when you start to do it in love, it's kind of like good luck magic. And so that's basically what I practice. And so I practice being in love with everything. And then I sit back and I just watched everything that I need come to me. But it's also when I need things to give away to people. And so that's really important too, because I like to give. I give to homeless people. If I see people, I'm sharing and caring. I really don't care anymore. I just give it all away because it's all going to come right back. And so I encourage everyone to start baby steps, but give stuff away. Even if it's one thing a week, even if you have someone and you just mail it to them, right? Just give it away. And so through the process of giving and do it from your heart, it will always come back to you tenfold. So yeah, the Fae are unappreciated. That's just a perception. And so I've seen so many people who have they've gone into forests, they've developed relationships with the Fae. We can actually communicate with them. It does take a time-space ability. And so you actually have to to start that ability would be like to go into the forest and to meditate and to slow your heart and to try and mess with the time space frequency wave so that you can see them. They're at a faster time space frequency. So of course you have to be loving, caring, kind, and really, really happy and excited and blissful. And then you'll be allowed to see them or make communication with them. And so even the orbs. And so when I've had them show up on my video before, my kids were opening their Christmas gifts. So little people who are super excited to have a ton of gifts to unwrap and open, right? So their excitement fills the air, and then all of a sudden there's a million orbs. So it's, you have to be joyful and excited. The second I can do that and you can walk through the forest, you'll start to see them. If you want to see them and you can't see them with your eyes, start walking through the forest and taking a video. And so you may see them fly across. Why do you disagree? What happened? Maybe that's a sign. If I am doing so much giving away of old possessions, higher vibrations happen when you become a minimal. They do. They absolutely do. And so possessions are frequency, just like anything. And so even the crystals. And so I had a ton of crystals. I packaged them all up. I've given them all away, and now they're right back. And I feel like I have so many of them. And these are just mine. These are not even from the crystal program. And so what I started doing is actually we opened up the crystal program. And so now people come and they purchase a crystal box. And so it's given me the ability to gift 99% of my crystals to everybody who gets a package. And so, but then not only that, we even sent the word out and asked people to donate crystals. And so people started sending us crystals. And so it's absolutely amazing, the abundance, because I would go to a crystal shop and I think I paid like $30 for this one. My daughter, she scammed me because she was like, can I have this? I really want it. She's 9. So of course I was like, here, we'll get it for you. I would never spend $30 on crystal. Right. And so I would Amazon and I would buy them in bulk because for $30, I can get a whole bowl and then I can give them all away. Like, that's just the way my mind works. I'm tribal. And so, but I got it for her. What did she do? She wrapped it and gave it to me for Christmas. I was so happy with it because I love the crystal. And so it's just absolutely amazing. So it gives us the ability, though, to take all the crystals and to share with multiple people. And then not only that, but we even did some crystal gifting to people. Well, there we go. We did some crystal gifting to people. And so through the holiday season, we were able to make packages and just send them out randomly to people. And so some of them we're still waiting to mail. So they are coming. But yeah, inanimate objects demand your life. They absolutely do. And so that was the whole point. Each crystal has a frequency. And so imagine that you walk through a crystal shop and you have 1,000 crystals. All of those different frequencies are going to start to tamper or change or modify your energetic grid structure. And so that's fine if you're walking through, or even if you work in a crystal shop, that's fine. But the second that you have it and it's close to your bed and it's every single day, then all of a sudden it becomes an issue. And so I personally, I would wear the same necklace until the necklace falls apart. In every video, you guys see me wearing this, right? I've had this thing over 20 years and I had it restrung, actually. It came from Mexico with the World Cup competition I was in. So it was a karate thing. And I got it and I love it. But the crystals, I would wear them and then all of a sudden it was causing imbalances. And so the star people were like, you have to take them off. You have to rotate the crystals. And then not only that, but now they have it so I don't touch the crystals unless I feel called to work with a crystal. And so working with the crystal is totally different than just having them hang out with you. And so I used to have them all hang out. And so I like them hanging out. I'm like, oh, they're beautiful. I can touch them. And then all the time, like, you're touching random crystals. But let's say, for an example, you notice something happening in your life. And so maybe you haven't been hugged in a week. That's a simple one. And so you want to Google and do your research. What crystal is good for bringing more love? And then all of a sudden, rose quartz comes to your forefront. So you'll probably see it online. And so then you get a piece of rose quartz and you either have it in your pocket or you sleep with it for 3 days. And then you take it and you put it away. And so see how you feel after the 3 days. Did you continue to hold the frequency? Because we can absorb the frequency of the rose quartz, but can you absorb it and then hold it? That's the trick. And so they want us to use the crystals 3 days and then try and hold the frequency that the crystal is giving to us. And so that's how you are learning to pre-program your own energetics. Very important. Now, I had a piece of organite Where is it? Well, it's somewhere over here. I had a piece of Organite and I wore it for years. And so we know that Organite makes vortex energetics. And I used to do manifestations up and down on this thing. Thank you for protecting me. And so I knew it was protecting me. I had no idea how it was protecting me. I just knew it was protecting me. Well, I accidentally took the necklace off once and then I got triggered on accident. And then all of a sudden, it was like a burst of emotions that were uncontrollable. And I had no reason to be upset. It was so simple, right? And so, but that was part in tune because that Organite necklace was making a vortex, which was it was hanging right over my heart. So it was having a direct effect on my emotion grid, which is located in the heart chakra. I had no idea any of this information. And so all of a sudden, now we realize, okay, by utilizing certain spiritual tools, it has an effect on your thoughts and emotions. And so that's wonderful because sometimes we need to rebalance our thoughts and emotions. It's okay to use tools or free passes in order to help assist us, but utilizing them every single day is not giving us power because we have to learn how to fully control ourselves without the tools. And so when you fully learn how to handle your thoughts and emotions, you start doing the attachment work, right? So kicking off the attachments, doing the shadow work, releasing your old traumas, all your old emotions. And then not only that, but if anybody says anything to you. So let's say someone calls you ugly, right? And so someone who believes or even thinks that they're ugly, they may cry or have an anxiety attack or break down. That's because they know in their heart, they know or they believe that they're ugly. And so it triggers them because that trigger is something that is meant to show them where they need to tighten their security, right? And so if someone says something to you that you know is not true, you're not going to get triggered. It's not going to bother you at all. And so that trigger is very important. So it's important to learn, okay, well, what triggered me? Why did I get upset? And then you start asking yourself, how do I feel? Why did I have an emotional reaction? And then you start breaking it down. Okay, so why did I have this emotion? Okay, when was the first time that I ever had that experience? Okay, go back to your memory grid. When was the first time? Pull at that memory. Okay, can you remember it? If you can remember it, send compassion to your younger self and heal it. If you cannot remember the memory, then feel it in your physical body. Where do I feel it? Where does it feel? Where do I feel ugly in my physical body? Your conscious mind will be drawn to a place. Maybe you don't like your thighs. Maybe you don't like your love handles, right? Maybe you don't like something about you. Maybe your nose, right? And so what do you want to do? You want to send love and light or compassion for your nose. Thank you, nose. I know that you're not perfect, but you're beautiful to me. And so when you start to reassure yourself, you start to step into your power. It's very important that each and every one of us steps into our power because the shape-shifting ability is quite real. And so the shape-shifting ability we can already see manifest on the planet. Some people, they go in for surgery. And so I know that we don't look at surgery as if it's something like a magical ability, but it is. Because think about the days of old. If you would have went into a location and you would have completely changed the way that you look, they would have looked at you like, oh my God, that was magic. However, we look at it from more of a scientific perspective. Oh, it's the ability to change what you look like. Makeup is also magic because some people are able to completely transform their faces. And so think about that, right? And so that is also written about in certain texts where they're like, okay, well, this is an ability for someone to change the way that they look. And so it's like a self magic or whatever. What did they call it? Yeah, it's like it's changing the self or modification to the image of the self. Mirror, mirror on the wall, right? And so the old hag, she was able to come and go and change her appearances. That's makeup. And so we don't think of things like that as if it's magic, but that's exactly what it is. And some people are really good at it, and some people don't have the attunement to it. Yeah. Those lizard eyes, who not mine. Oh, not mine, definitely. I wear moldavite every day. So moldavite is a bringer of change. And so that type of stone, it actually pulses your energetic grid structure. And so think about it this way. It's kind of like the full moon. The full moon comes and it pulses us in order to release or alleviate density. So we work on our traumas during the full moon. And this is why you see everyone gets crazy during the full moon. It's normal. It's absolutely normal. That moon was placed in our orbit in order to speed up the evolution process for humanity because we had dropped so far. So it's here to do us a solid. So we always say, thank you, moon. Right. And so Yeah, it's just absolutely amazing. My favorite necklace is a simple, crystal clear Merkaba. I feel strongly protected with it. Yes, I have this one. This one is kind of like a Merkaba field, except when it arrived, it was chipped. And during the time, there's a little corner missing. During the time, I got a replacement one. The replacement one is gone. I don't know what happened to it. And so, but this one is chipped. But I knew instantly that it was protecting me. So a lot of times when crystals break, right? And so we've had reports of people who hold crystals and they just have them in their hand and then the crystal explodes. And so a lot of times the crystal will take the negative energy that you have in your energetic grids and transmute it. And so whenever you have, like, even if it's a crystal bracelet and it, like, let's say it pulls and all the beads go everywhere, it's still protecting you. That's why it broke. Occasional wearing of makeup is okay, right? Yes, absolutely. Makeup is okay to use. Everything is okay. Plastic surgery is okay, right? Because everything is just an experience. But the whole purpose of that is we learn, okay, if you want to change the way you look, there are ways to do it, right? And so we're using physical steps in which someone has to go, they have to sit, they have to apply the makeup, they have to go do the surgery and the healing and all that stuff. That's going through time and space. Where we're going with our evolution is more instantaneous. And so we will be able to close our eyes and change our binary codex frequency, which then in turn changes the way that we look. And so think about it this way. Now, if someone is working with makeup, this is a great example. So they want to speed up time and space. So they're going to drop into the meditation and they're going to visualize working with the makeup. And then all of a sudden, when they open their eyes, a half hour on the clock may have gone by and they switched into a parallel reality in which they have already finished their makeup. This is the ability that we have. And so the same exact thing can come with self-healing. And so you can open your eyes in the morning and you can have the memory of going through that surgery and just being healed. That's how powerful we are. We are multi-dimensional creators. And so your reality is what you wish to see. You can manifest it. Now, of course, we are seeing things that we don't like. And we're doing this because we're holding on to these toxic emotions. And so the toxic emotions also come from the TV set. It comes from all the programming that we've been put through. And so, but the second that we come to a place of peace, right? And so we come to a place of it's okay. Everything is okay. Everything is in divine alignment. It's all perfect just the way it is. Even the good, the bad, the ugly is all in divine alignment because it's allowing us to evolve at a very rapid rate. And so come to peace with everything because that's when you can access the sub-programming system, which then in turn allows you to make changes instantaneously. Time and space is a form of an illusion. It's only a frequency wave. It's something that we as frequency generators can change or modify. And so when you're really happy, time goes fast. When you're really sad, time goes slow. This is something that they had me do with my hair. And so I used to hate flat ironing my hair. And I was born with curly hair that looks like Ronald McDonald. Hated it, right? And so they were like, you're hating it, though. So it's taking you even longer to do. They were like, you have to love it. So sing a song, bop your head, right? And then all of a sudden, now it goes by super quick. So we're learning by the baby step process to take control of the time-space frequency wave. And so it is going to fire off to a point in which it's 1, 2, 3, and it's done. And you're like, oh my God, that I feel like I blinked my eye and it was done. Yes, that's because you're manipulating time and space at that level. So each and every one of us can do this. We're doing it automatically now. Your emotions determine how fast or how slow your day goes. So that's the first level of that gift. The third level of that gift is instantaneous location code or teleportation. And so the second degree of that gift is modifying time space to be finished, or changing the appearance, or changing your biologics, any of those things. Or even they're even saying growing a tree. And so some people can put a seed in the ground and they can hold their hands and they can change the time space and then they can make the tree grow instantaneously. And yeah, so it's all absolutely amazing. Yeah, Irish chick. I have the clatter ring. And so the clatter ring, right? It's a little, my mom got me that for high school. And then this one, I tattooed it. It's also the clatter ring. Yeah, love it. Okay, excellent. So we are going to end right now. So I just want to thank you guys super, super, super much for coming. Many, many love and blessings. And whatever you guys are going through right now with the current shift, just remember to just drop into a meditation and be happy and thankful and grateful for what you have. Anybody who's going through turbulence or car accidents or diseases or anything, right? Find a buddy, find a friend. You guys can send me a message. I talk to everybody. And so, just know that this is a community. All of my people on Facebook, they all turn around and they befriend each other. And so everyone helps each other. And so it makes me so proud to be a part of that because it's more of a community than anything. So any comments, right? Hop on the comments, tell people what you guys are going through, right? Seek a friend, seek many friends. And so it's just an absolute pleasure to be able to come and talk to you guys and be a part of the community with you. So many, many love and blessings. You guys have a great, wonderful night.